Hi, everyone. This is the second in our series of Thompson technique interviews, and we have two very special guests today. We have Dr. Dave Mitchell and his granddaughter, Dr. Aubrey. And Dr. Dave was one of the instructors that was certified by Dr. Thompson. So one of the few actual instructors left that Dr. Thompson taught alongside of. So I'm really happy to have both of you here with me today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's start with Dr. Dave, and then we'll go to Dr. Aubrey. Dr. Dave, can you please tell us, how did you become interested in becoming a chiropractor?
At the time that I got interested in chiropractic, I was working as a millwright, and I injured my low back sliding a large piece of lumber out of a rack. When the lumber came out, it fell down, and I caught it. And it just took me right to the floor with it. And I had a lot of trouble in the lower part of my back there for some time. So I went to a Dr. John Sutherland, a Palmer graduate in Albuquerque. I went to him to get that straightened out, and he did get me straightened out, and he did and then he talked to me considerably about going to chiropractic college. And I got pretty interested in this and decided that I would go ahead and try to get everything ready and get into Palmer. So that's pretty well what got me started, because nothing that I had ever done before, because that was to make this change that just a little bit. I had a horse injury. I was dumb enough to ride some pretty bad horses, and I had a horse injury before and injured that low back, but I never did get it fixed. And so when I did go to Palmer go to a Palmer chiropractor, I did get it fixed. And then I did get ready, go on and get everything I needed, and then went into chiropractic college. And I'm trying to remember the exact year, but I swear I can't remember right at the moment.
That's okay. Do you mind telling us how old you are?
I am 94 years old.
Wow. You've been in chiropractic a long time. Well, it's interesting.
Considerably a long time.
Yes. It's interesting that you got into chiropractic because of an injury from unloading lumber. And that's exactly how my grandfather got injured, when he developed diabetes, was unloading lumber. So that's kind of interesting. You two have that in common. And Dr. Aubrey, I know you went to Life because we were in school at the same time, but I didn't realize until we spoke earlier, but I didn't realize both of your parents are chiropractors. So tell us a little bit about your chiropractic story, because a lot of times you grow up in a chiropractic family, you don't really think about becoming a chiropractor. So what led you to Life College?
Well, my mom went to Palmer, and actually my parents met at Palmer, and then my dad decided to not be a chiropractor, then decided later to go to Life. So so I kind of grew up at Life. I was there first through sixth grade while my dad was in school, and my mom worked as the director of alumni, and she was in charge of graduation there at Life. And then so when I was trying to decide, I was either going to go to California and go to Life West, or go to Georgia and go to Life. So.
Wow, that's really interesting. I did not know that. So you've got really deep roots at Palmer and at Life.
Yes.
That is something. But when you were in school at Life, your folks were back out west by then.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was in sixth grade, we moved back to New Mexico and they
Oh my
started
gosh.
practicing.
Wow. So your parents were probably one of the early classes at Life then.
Well, my dad graduated in 86, so it was a few years before, but my mom, I was born in 1975 and my mom graduated that same year from Palmer.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Wow. Well, Dr. Dave, can you tell us some of your memories from being a student at Palmer back in the day with the BJ clinic? I mean, those were such magical years to be a student at Palmer. What are some of your memories about being a student in those days?
Well, the time that I worked in the BJ clinic, I don't remember the year that was in, but I was just, there's so many people chosen once a year to work in there. And I chose to go ahead and do that. And it was one of the most memorable things about Palmer that I did, because there was such a high volume of people coming into BJ's clinic at that time. And that's where I got it. And I had met Dr. Thompson before this, but I think I'd had him in one class. And then when I got in there, Dr. Clay Thompson was down there working on the drops on these tables, the Thompson, we called them the Thompson tables.
Mhm.
The Palmer Thompson table sometimes, and the Thompson table. And I went across the river into Moline and on out to another little town out in the next state over there. And one afternoon, and a lady pulled out in front of me, and I tried to stop and couldn't, and so we broadsided one another. And I got another injury there. And then, while I was in the clinic there, they took care of me. And Dr. Thompson and Dr. M.B. Denial.
Oh, sure.
Yes, they took care of me there in the clinic. And of course, that just built me up. And that's how come me to be there and see Dr. Thompson working on the tables back there. And I talked to him quite a lot about it. And the more I talked to him about those drops in that table, and it made me want more, made me more interested in continuing what I was doing. Anyway, they straightened that out, and Dr. BJ adjusted my atlas.
Wow.
It's the only adjustment he ever gave me.
Wow.
And I had another or two there in the clinic, but Dr. M.B. did those.
There aren't many people alive today that can say they were adjusted by BJ Palmer. That's really something. That is something. And I never met Dr. Denio, but his widow, Ruthie, was living in the Atlanta area while we were in chiropractic school. So I did get to meet her. She was a sweetheart. Yes. Yeah. Wow. So when you were in the BJ clinic, when you were taking care of your patients, were you only using the HIO work in clinic?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Oh, go ahead, Aubrey.
When you were in clinic, at the BJ clinic, were you only using HIO there in clinic?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, that's the only thing he was using that they were, that the adjustments they gave were HIO.
Mhm.
And they were running 140, 130, 140 in that neighborhood at that time through that clinic every day.
Right. My grandpa talked about the clinic as being in the auditorium with just a stage, and then you would adjust your patient one person at a time. Is that how it was when you went through the clinic?
Now, when I went through, I was not adjusted. I only got that one adjustment from BJ, which cleared up my problem.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then we didn't, the students that were in there did not get to give adjustments in that clinic.
Okay. I see.
We were there and we worked there. We helped move the people. We helped take care of the people. We worked in the big instrument.
Oh, sure. The
Oh,
electroneuromentograph.
is that there? I worked in there
Wow.
for,
What,
I worked in there for about 3 months.
really?
And I really was interested in that. Although we had, we were only observing.
Okay.
And that was all we could do in there because we weren't allowed to touch anything or anybody that was being checked with that machine.
Were you in school with Dr. Sid and Dr. Snell and Dr. Dee Umber? Were you in school the same time as them?
You were at Palmer with Dr. Umber and Dr. Sid and Dr.
Dr.
Nell.
Sid and Dr. Umber, Dr. Nell, and a fellow by the name of Galen.
Price.
Oh, Price.
No,
No.
no, not Dr. Price. Well, there was one other
Sorry.
guy, first name Galen. He's passed away a long time ago. And, but anyway, that was a group that was together all the time during the time I was in college.
So when you got out of school, then did you start off just pretty much upper cervical, or how soon
Yes,
after?
ma'am.
And then how soon after you graduated did you start to spend time with Dr. Thompson and start to really become interested in teaching his technique?
I had practiced probably, let's see, 3 years before. I don't want to say the year because I don't really remember. But yes, I was practicing HIO chiropractic for quite some time, and I was using that little flat table, the first one that Dr. Thompson put out, that I saw, that Dr. Thompson put out. And they had that table in the clinic. The one BJ adjusted me on was one of the same ones.
Wow.
Is that little side posture table. And I practiced my first 3 years with nothing but that little side posture table in my office.
Was Dr. Glenn Stillwagon in school the same time as you also?
Glenn was there. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So then when Dr. Sid started the dynamic essential meetings, did you attend all of those?
I attended a terrible bunch of them. I don't know if I got them all or not.
Yeah, because I know, Aubrey, when we were in school, that was really the peak of Life College, and DE was such an integral part of that. And it was so much fun to go because there were speakers from, all over the world, the best speakers in all the different subjects and topics and techniques.
Yes.
And so it was really a special time to be in chiropractic college.
Absolutely.
So Aubrey, are you pretty much a Thompson practitioner because you had one of the best teachers there?
I know. Yes, I am. Yes. My dad, actually, all three of us use Thompson technique. My mom retired in February of last year, but my dad and I still practice, and we primarily use Thompson technique. So,
Yeah. Dr. Dave, how 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 many seminars or places did you teach the Thompson technique? Because you were one of the top instructors for as long as I can remember.
Well, I can't even begin to, I don't know if I can even begin to tell you or not. I taught one here, at least one here in the state of New Mexico every year
Mhm.
for a number of years. And I don't remember the exact number. I taught for, I went at the Lyceum, homecomings, and whatnot. And I taught for Life College there every year for several years. Two other gentlemen worked there. Each time that I worked there at the college during homecoming, two boys from Australia.
Right. Alan and Terry Brady.
Yeah, you've got those.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I did not go out to other states other than Texas to teach the Thompson technique. And not because I wouldn't go, but I just didn't, I wasn't trying to go out and teach it everywhere else.
Mhm.
I taught one seminar in Texas with Clay Thompson. And when I walked in there, he just immediately, he looked at me and he says, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm down here to watch the master work."
And then did he put you to work since you were there? Well, we're trying to get Aubrey to become one of our instructors. So we're gonna be pestering
It'd be a
her.
good one.
I know she would be. Do you
Anyway, we did, yeah, and I pretty well took over that seminar there for him. Now, he was there. He was in the room with us. And I pretty well did all the main part of the teaching. Then when they come to a big question, it always went right back to Clay and he'd answer it.
there are so many funny stories about my grandpa because he was always getting into some kind of trouble. Do you have any funny memories about something that Dr. Thompson did or said that you can recall?
Well, I can't think of anything offhand.
Do you have any stories about Dr. Sid or Dr. Nell that you think would be interesting for people to hear, more like the personal side of them?
Well, I listened to BJ and I listened to Sid.
You had the best teachers, that's for sure.
And however, I was not a teacher on anything other than Thompson technique.
Mhm.
That's what I taught. And in that, we of course gave it a lot of philosophy.
Oh yes, for
You
sure.
know, you understand that.
Yes. I think that's one thing that's very special about the Thompson technique is that you really can't take the philosophy out of the technique because it's innate intelligence that's showing through the leg check where to adjust. And with that principle of the drop mechanism, the idea is that there's that concussion of forces at the bottom of the drop, which allows innate to make that correction. So the technique is very much connected to the philosophy of chiropractic.
It definitely is. And there's nothing else that replaces that toggle recoil.
That's probably the best adjustment there is still to this day. That's for sure.
And yes, ma'am, and it doesn't make any difference what bone you're adjusting on the body. You know, it's taught that the spine corrects everything, and that's where it comes from. But if you get your shoulder out and get a misalignment in your shoulder and use that Thompson headpiece or that Thompson drop in those tables and the toggle recoil without any pain or any residual effects other than getting well, nothing happens.
Yeah,
You get well.
it's so good for the patient, and it also gives the doctor a lot more years in practice because it's so much more, gentle for us as the person giving the adjustment. Dr. Aubrey, do you have any special memories about growing up in a chiropractic family, or, since your family has such deep roots with Palmer and Life, any special memories about Dr. Sid or Life College?
I remember doing going to the runs for Life that they used to do all the time in the 80s. And, just being there, being a kid, being around all of them, Dr. Sid and Dr. Umber, they were just, they weren't family, but they were people that I was familiar with,
Right.
and they were people I just always knew, even as a little kid, I knew who they were. And, so, and lots of good memories. And when you did the interview with Dr. Umber, just hearing his voice brought back lots of memories. It was nice to hear his Southern drawl,
Yes. And remember when we were in school, every week we would have assemblies and Dr. Umber and
Yes.
Dr. Sid would talk. And,
Yeah.
sometimes as students, you don't appreciate what you have at that time. And wow, wouldn't you just give anything to go back and sit through one of those assemblies today?
Right. Irreplaceable things that we got to experience. Huh?
Yeah, we as students, we had all of these technique developers coming through the college and teaching us, and we really had it so great
Yeah.
in those days.
Yes.
What was it like for you growing up with both parents as chiropractors?
It was great. I just got adjusted anytime we needed to. And, it was part of life. That's not anything, we never went through the medical model for anything really. So it was just chiropractic.
Do you have any siblings?
I have a sister.
Did she go to chiropractic college?
She didn't. She became a massage therapist, but she's very chiropractic philosophy, very strong in her, beliefs about the innate ability of the body to heal. And she would have made a great chiropractor. She just never really wanted to do that, go to school and do all that,
Yeah. So, being in the Midwest, we're always intrigued with out West, with the West. And you mentioned, the horse injuries and such. So, do you take care of a lot of people that have those kind of injuries? Is that big horse country out there?
There's a lot of rodeoing and stuff like that. So yes, and I have some unusual things where people will come in and say, well, my cow ran into me or something, I'm like, oh, those are things you're not going to hear everywhere.
Right. That's right. Well, I really appreciate you guys so much taking this time to just talk a little bit of your memories of Dr. Thompson and Palmer School and Life College. Is there anything else that you would want to just share with chiropractic students or doctors about chiropractic? It could be philosophy, it could be technique. Is there any words of wisdom you would like to pass on?
I would like to see all students at least made acquainted with what chiropractic is, especially students who are interested in the human body, in helping people and getting sick people well. I would like to see those students have a good chiropractic philosopher and someone with the experience that it took to get him where he is or she is. I would like to see those people talk to the students, especially where students are, there's tons of them, they don't know, they're going to college and they don't have the slightest idea what they want to do.
Mhm.
They're just going to college.
Right.
And I would like to see it introduced. Now, that may be one of the hardest things that's ever happened in chiropractic, but I'd still like to see that introduced, and I'd like to see them be able to get a good view of what chiropractic is. And today it probably could be done because there's 10,000 different ways that people do chiropractic work, and it still works.
That's right.
If you correct the cause of the disease, the body gets better.
That's right. That's the
That's
philosophy.
what I'm,
Yeah, our philosophy is the thing that binds us all together, regardless of style of adjusting, what kind of adjusting table you have, what kind of x-rays you take. It's the philosophy that really, really binds us together.
that's exactly. And you're not bound to a drug company.
Hmm.
I'm not saying people don't need drugs or any other thing. I'm not knocking that part of the thing. But you aren't that, and people need to understand that that's what chiropractic does. It doesn't do that. That's what it doesn't do. I'd love to see the schools have people come in and talk to them, the colleges, especially for people they're going to school and they don't even know why they're going.
Right.
So many of them. I mean, I've had some of them at work, some of them that didn't. I've had them in our family. And this girl is a good example, but she grew up with it.
Hmm.
And she's just like me. She wants everybody else to do the same thing. Anyway, that's.
Well, I think you're right. I think that, and I think the colleges probably would be really thrilled to have some experienced chiropractors with good philosophy come in and just be a guest speaker. So I think that they would be really open to that for sure. Aubrey, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Not that I can think of, Beth. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And, if you think of anything else that you want to talk about, we can do another recording down the road. So it doesn't have to just be a one-time thing. I think it's such an honor to talk to a chiropractor that's been around for, been alive for 90 some years. That's really amazing. So thank you so much. You look great. It's good to see you guys. And we will go ahead and just finish up for today. But thanks again. I really appreciate you both being on today.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you for coming in.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording here.
Okay.